There are 64,807 people employed in the Swiss watch industry. Of those, 36 are full members of the AHCI, the Academy of Independent Watchmakers. That's less than 0.06%. The ones at the top hand-finish movements that later clear 8 figures at Philips, and most of them earn less than a mid-career Zurich software engineer until they're in their 70s. This is every level of a Swiss watchmaker's life. And the money mostly never reaches the maker. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The Apprentice. You are 15 years old at the École Technique de la Vallée du Joux. The Swiss Federal Apprenticeship, the Coup Fu Se Horloger, runs 4 years and you spend 2/3 of it at the bench. Year 1 pays between 596 and 894 Swiss francs a month, 13 months a year. Year 4 tops out at 1788 Swiss francs a month, still under what a Zurich barista clears. If you're a non-resident foreigner, tuition 8 ETVJ runs 16,200 Swiss francs a year, and your first year of materials costs another 2,500 to 3,200. You learn to file your own tools before you're allowed to touch a movement. You make a piece d'école, a piece of your own manufacture, turned and drilled and assembled by hand, and it proves you can be trusted with brass and steel. Philippe Dufour finished the school at Le Sentier in 1967 and was dispatched to St. Croix in the Caribbean to service Jaeger-LeCoultre watches. That was the job. You spend your days under a loop, and your hands are never quite steady enough. 3 apprentices in the cohort quit in the first year. 1 more leaves between year 2 and 3. The federal exam is the only gate. Pass it, and you're allowed to call yourself a horloger. Fail it, and 4 years disappear. Level 2 is the service bench. Level 2. The service watchmaker. You are 19. You've passed the Coup Fu Se, and you are on a service bench in Biel or Neuchâtel, inside the Arc Horloger, where 93.4% of Swiss watch employment sits. The median industry wage for 2026 is 5,958 Swiss francs a month, roughly 77,400 a year. Entry-level ERI data puts you lower at 59,000. A watchmaker at Rolex BN per glass door clears about $80,780 US. The day is repetition. A watch comes in, you diagnose a rate error, you strip the movement, you put it through an ultrasonic bath, you oil 9 pivots with a dozen different lubricants, and you regulate it on a timing machine. You do a watch a day, sometimes 2. The wrists go first, carpal tunnel, microscope fatigue, and then the understanding arrives that you are building nothing new. You are maintaining what someone else already made. In the United States, the American Watchmakers Clockmakers Institute reports that 1 new watchmaker enters the field for every 10 who retire. Rolex opened a training center in Dallas in 2023 to close that gap. 15 students per intake, twice a year, tuition-free, $1,800 a month stipend. The pipeline is that thin. The timing machine reads +4 seconds and the watch goes back on the bench. You do it again. And again. Then a senior signs off on your first unsupervised chronometer regulation. And a letter arrives from a manufacturer in the Valais. Level 3. The Assembly Watchmaker. You are 24. You've been pulled into a manufacturer. Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and you are building series movements now. The pay sits between 70,000 and 90,000 Swiss francs a year. Glassdoor's Patek Geneva sample, 9 watchmakers, centers at 76,218 US. The career track inside Patek is published. Essential maintenance, classic, complications, grand complications, 4 levels, roughly 36 months apart. In 2015, Patek's inaugural New York horology program took 6 students from about 300 applicants, a 50-to-1 selection ratio. In 2017, its Swiss intake took roughly 6 watchmakers from 380 applicants. You're the 1 in 50. The bench is cleaner. The tooling is better. The cycle times are strict. You build a chronograph movement alone for the first time, and the atelier lead lets it leave without correction, and then you realize you will never sign the dial. Rexep Recepi's Piece d'école made when he was still an apprentice at Patek Philippe, carried his own signature on the dial. That is the exception. The rule is anonymity. Then a dial lands on your bench with a tourbillon cage, and a senior you've barely spoken to asks if you want to finish the bridge by hand. Finishing means anglage, the 45-degree hand beveling of every edge, and it takes tens of hours per set of bridges. It means black polish, poli noir, on a tin plate with progressive diamond paste, about 3 hours for a single tourbillon bridge. The mirror must be so flat that the surface looks black when it catches the light at an angle. You load the bridge, you push, you check, you push again. The angle slips. A single micrometer of error, and the bridge is scrap. A junior ruined one last month and was moved to service. The room is the same size. Your hand shakes at the hinge of the push. Your heartbeat is the shake in the tweezers. You finish. The atelier lead takes the bridge to the window, tilts it under raking light, and hands it back without a word. That's how you know you've moved into complications, or you're about to. Level 4. The Complications Watchmaker. You are 32. The pay is 90 to 130,000 Swiss francs, with the Patek 90th percentile at 133,435 US dollars, about 118,000 Swiss francs. That is what a mid-level Zurich software engineer clears on total comp at a standard Swiss employer. At Google Zurich, the median is 277,000 Swiss francs. At Meta, between 397 and 402. You are building tourbillons, perpetual calendars, and minute repeaters under a stereo microscope, and your heartbeat is still the shake in the tweezers. Minute repeater tuning alone runs between 200 and 300 hours per watchmaker per movement. A full repeater, including research, runs more than 1,000. The Geneva seal, the Point Comte de Genève, rests on 12 criteria codified in 1886, updated in 2011, and the movement must be built, assembled, and adjusted inside the Canton of Geneva. Only TimeLab can stamp it. You tune a gong, you strike it, you listen, you tune it again. The repeater rings cleanly on both gongs, and a client in Singapore, whose name you will never be told, receives a watch that retails for more than your house. Kari Voutilainen spent 9 years at Parmigiani, 1990 to 1999, restoring the Sandoz collection under Charles Maillon. Philippe Dufour finished 5 Grande and Petite Sonnerie pocket watch movements for Audemars Piguet starting in 1982, and his name appeared nowhere on them. That's the choice. Stay, and the ceiling is here. Leave, and the cliff is next. Level 5. The Independent. You are 42, and you've left. A Chaublin 70 lathe, used and tooled, cost you between 5 and 20,000 Swiss francs. A Chaublin 102, used to new, cost between 10 and 50,000. A single set of Bourgeon accessories runs between 649 and 1139 US dollars, and you need 10 to 20 sets. Triangulated, a full single bench setup lands somewhere between 100 and 300,000 Swiss francs. You finance it by restoring other people's watches, the same way Voutilainen did. In his own words, I was working a lot for other companies to finance my own stuff. I was buying tools and more tools. You produce 2 to 6 watches a year. François-Paul Journe launched his 1999 Souscription Tourbillon on a Breguet-style subscription model. A 50% deposit up front, double Breguet's historical 25% 20 pieces sold to collector friends. Rexepe on being independent. There's a lot of pressure as an entrepreneur when it's your own name, your own brand. You sell your first piece under your own signature, then the second, then the third. Dufour went independent in 1978, and the first watch bearing his own name didn't exist until Basel, 1992. 14 years of restoring antique pocket watches, and then the world's first Grande and Petite Sonnerie wristwatch on his own dial. In his words, you have to erase some words from your dictionary: weekends, holidays, retirement. Level 6. The Master. You are in your 70s. Same bench, same tweezers, same Chaublin lathe. A Simplicity by Dufour launched in the year 2000 at roughly 35 to 50,000 US dollars. The last watches of the first run sold at about 89,000 Swiss francs by 2014. In November 2020, the 20th anniversary Simplicity number 00 hammered at Philips Geneva for 1,361,000 Swiss francs, roughly 40 times the original retail. In November 2021, Philips Geneva 14 sold 4 Dufour lots, a Grande and Petite Sonnerie number 1 at 4,749,000, a Duality number 8 at 3,660,000, a Simplicity number 57 at 756,000, and the 4 lots together cleared about 11.4 million Swiss francs in one night. The whole sale ran to 68,263,230 Swiss francs across 248 lots, 100% sell-through. You built the watches, the auction houses, the dealers, the collectors. They made the money. By Oral Bax's own March 2025 statement, only 14 of more than 6,000 Philips lots over the prior 4 years went unsold. Philips makes the market, and the market makes the name. Grubel Forsey produces about 100 watches a year, starting around $300,000. Voutilanen produces 45 to 50 with 14 to 15 artisans. Roger Smith has built 185 watches in his lifetime, single digits per year. That is the ceiling. On December 6, 2025, Philips New York sold an FP Journe FFC prototype gifted by Journe to Francis Ford Coppola for $10,775,000. The hammer fell in 11 minutes. It was a world record for any independent watchmaker wristwatch. Francois-Paul Journe received none of it. Pierre Halimi, who runs FP Journe in the United States, said it plainly in December 2025. Right now, prices are just stupid. They are way too high. And we're not happy about this. The watch you made 30 years ago for $50,000 sells tonight for $1 million. You see the paddle go up in a room you are not in, for a figure you are not paid. Dufour is lying again. I did no marketing or communication. Product speaks for itself was the only option. The product keeps speaking louder every year. He does not. The money you never earned pays for a second owner's yacht. And your bench, the same one, is waiting for you in the morning.